What's up, G Show Land, and welcome to another episode of the G Show podcast. I am G1, and this is the Geek Out. And kind of a special edition of the Geek Out, because as y'all know, for the past month and some change, I've been flying solo on the Geek Out. But today, we're doing things a little bit differently, because this Geek Out is kind of dedicated to a certain giant shark movie review that dropped this weekend, and we had a lot to talk about that. Who is we? Let me tell you. My Sib from another crib, Gam Z1, how the hell are you?
Well, first of all, happy belated Shark Week.
Shark Week was 12 years ago, it feels like, at this point. Yeah, no. Okay, happy belated.
With this box office, hey, Shark Week is back, baby, for round two.
Round two. Yeah, we're going to get into it. Also joining us, very special guest, first time on the show, Gam's partner, Cruz. How the hell are you?
I'm doing all right. It's an honor to be here for the first time. Never really been part of anything like this, so I'll do my best to behave.
Don't you worry. We don't ever behave here. I try to behave sometimes on the Geek Out. I do. I can't, but then I get caught up in my feelings and my emotions. And especially I'm by myself, so nobody's able to rail me in. So I just go on tangents. I'm doing it right now. Let's stop. Let's talk about what we always talk about at the beginning of the Geek Out. That is the box office. Because this week, ladies and gentlemen, this week caught me so off guard with the box office. So off guard. Now, let's be for real here. I thought maybe, no, I didn't. You could check the last podcast out. No, Barbie was going to win this box office. I thought maybe Ninja Turtles, because of its longevity and the franchise itself, the name recognition, would have some kind of pull. But no, that didn't happen. Barbie took the weekend again. Still at the top of the box office, coming in with $53 million. But that's not even the story here. That's in the third week. That's not even the story. In its third week in theaters, Barbie has broke $1 billion, making it the second movie this year to break $1 billion after Super Mario Brothers, but the first movie to break $1 billion in just 3 weeks. This movie's on fire, people. This movie's on fire. I am trying to remember a time where there was a movie that was this successful this early. I mean, maybe Avengers Infinity War, Endgame. That's a possibility.
Yeah, probably Endgame.
Right?
Definitely.
Maybe the last live-action Spider-Man movie, No Way Home. Maybe
Avatar, maybe?
The second one? I don't know about the first one.
Maybe the second one, because people was looking forward to that one.
Yeah, maybe the first one too, though, because remember, back in that day, there were no movies coming out in December.
They re-released the first movie around the time of Endgame to retake the #1 spot. Out of pettiness.
Avatar box office is actually $2.9 billion.
Yeah, so. It's a crazy box office. But Avatar was one of the first of the biggest box offices ever. But this is crazy. This is crazy because, again, like...
The second one isn't too far behind. It's 2.3.
Yeah.
And I'm looking right now. I'm looking at the box offices right now, right? Again, Mario Brothers sitting pretty at #1 with $1.355 billion.
I'd say deserved.
Which they did. Mario Brothers has been around for quite some time, though, since, April, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's now on Peacock. It's on demand. It's how you could probably buy it right now. I'm pretty sure it drops.
I went to Walmart the other day, and there was a display there for the DVD Blu-ray.
So you can get it. You don't need to go to the movies. So here's the deal. Barbie only needs $324 million to take the #1 spot from Super Mario Brothers. That's going to happen.
Oh, definitely.
That's
probably by the end of this week.
Maybe. It's slowing down. I mean, it's still insane.
I would say definitely in the next 2 months.
Yeah, I think by the time its theatrical run is over, it'll definitely surpass and be the #1 movie. There's nothing else coming out this year that is going to make the numbers that these two movies have made. Nothing. And the only movie that was close up until Barbie just smashed the $1 billion was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which you can also now purchase and watch on Disney+. So That's all over. Barbie's going to be the number one movie of the year. Make no mistake about it. But let's talk about what comes next, because Barbie is a beast on its own. But the beasts that I thought was going to be number 2 is actually number 4. That is insane. The beast I thought that was going to be number 4 is actually number 2. That is insane. The Meg to the Trench won the box office, in my opinion, this weekend, even though Barbie, is number 1.
Because, Barbie is Barbie. Barbie's been out for a hot minute.
Exactly.
So the Meg 2 coming out here swinging at number 2. Hang on a minute. Now, I want to talk about one important thing. The Meg 2 has made $30 million from Friday to Sunday. I think the last number I saw was 50, right? $1 million. That's not good when you think about the type. Well, it actually is kind of good for the movie it is, right? But in the blockbuster season, $30 million opening weekend, you're scratching your head like, what? But again, it had to go up against Barbie and Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's still making mony. Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it's still sitting pretty at like 500 mil or something like that.
It's $500 million. Yep.
$500 million now? That's fucking insane.
Oppenheimer is at $556 million worldwide. That's insane. Right. It's making more money internationally than it is domestically, and domestically, it's still killing the box office. So that's very, very impressive. But the Meg,
absolutely,
domestically coming out $30 million in 3 days, beats Ninja Turtles in Ninja Turtles 3-day. Friday to Sunday, it made $28 million. But Ninja Turtles did not come out on Friday. It came out on Wednesday. So when you factor in the Tuesday preview shows, Wednesday and Thursday, right? And then the weekend, Ninja Turtles took in a total of $43 million. So if we look at it like that, technically, Ninja Turtles is number 2. But we're talking about the weekend. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I want to talk about with Ninja Turtles that I'm kind of like, yo. Even with that 5-day total, and Ninja Turtles only made $43 million, that is way lower than I expected. And you know what kills me? It's lower than what The Flash made, and it's lower than what Transformers made in their opening weekends. Flash made 55, Transformers made $60 million opening weekend. And they still, both of those movies, had to contend with the powerhouse that was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Exactly.
Now, Barbie...
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like, literally right next to Into the Spider-Verse was such a mistake.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. I think Ninja Turtles probably would have benefited with a November release.
Yeah.
To give it that breathing room. Because make no mistake about it, the animation is definitely more stylized, and that is heavily influenced by the stylization of the Spider-Man movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every animated movie has at least some inspiration from Spider-Verse these days, even like the Puss in Boots movie. But like this whole movie is inspired by Spider-Verse, and I think because everybody just came out from watching Spider-Verse, they're seeing this Ninja Turtles movie. It's like, it's more of the same.
It feels like a repeat, and it's not genuine. Like, I feel like the comic book style was a good move because Turtles are originally from comic books, and that's something that every new generation of Turtles that viewers should know, just so they can go into the history and everything. But it doesn't feel like it got enough attention, or like it was really meant to be something new and special. It just didn't feel that way.
And it's crazy because they were promoting the shit out of this movie. I mean, IGN had cast interviews out the wazoo leading up to this movie. Oh, yeah. It was everywhere.
They brought back the meme kid who said, I like turtles for this.
That blew my mind. I can't lie. I was like, that's genius marketing right there. And that didn't cost them a lot. So that was perfect. I'm a sucker for the soundtrack. Now, I didn't see the movie, but everything they've been playing on the commercials, I'm like, oh yeah, it has a lot of, it's all New York flavor. And New York flavor from
when I was growing up. So I was loving all of it. Although I was kind of weirded out. I'm like, they're really playing Annie Up in this commercial? Like, Annie Up is not for, that's not synonymous with a children's
demographic. Exactly.
Yeah, it's so weird. I was like, okay, like, for instance, Deadpool and DMX makes sense. Deadpool is that type of movie. It's guys, no holds barred.
Oh, if you look at the soundtrack on Spotify, there's some titles for orchestral as soundtrack, but there's some titles for this soundtrack for the actual movie itself that have inappropriate, they have swear words in them, and they're marked as explicit because the title simply has a swear word in it.
And it's crazy because that's not what Ninja Turtles is. But again, I mean, I didn't see.
And not meant to age down the characters and then do shit like that. That doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. Like, if you wanted to appeal to an older audience, an older generation, then why did you age down the Turtles?
Yeah, look, I mean, I've been a fan since the 87 cartoon. I was the right age when that came out. They definitely marketed it to me. I found the Mirage comic books after the fact, fell in love with that. I loved the first movie. I really like Secret of the Ooze. And from that point on, the first CG movie was good. The TMNT full CG animated movie, I enjoyed that.
The 2007 one.
Yeah, and the Megan Fox, April O'Neil led Ninja Turtles movies. There's moments that I can't lie, I dig. But all that aside, I didn't see this movie. I did not go to see this movie. There was something about it that just was rubbing me the wrong way. And my daughter went to see it with all her friends, and I straight up said, give me all the spoilers. So I know the movie, and I was like, you know what? I'll watch it when it comes out on Paramount Plus. Absolutely.
Exactly. I feel the same way. That's really what I'm waiting for, is I'll give it a chance once it's free to watch. But other than that, I'm not spending my money on this.
So that's what I want to ask both of y'all, all right? Because, I get that it had to contend with, an already hot Barbieheimer, if you will, right?
Barbenheimer, yes. We love the Barbenheimer.
Ninja Turtles had to contend with that, right? Not only that, but then it also had to, swim past the MEG, right?
Right.
And this is an almost 40-year-old franchise with a lot of clout. So what was it that stopped the Turtles in their tracks?
I'm gonna be honest, it's probably because of the character designs.
It's about the liberties they took with it, Because I feel like they went too far too fast.
Like, not to get political or anything, but a lot of the decisions to make, say, April O'Neil, this unappealing character design, and you can look all over Twitter every time people bring up the movie in general. People are like, "Oh yeah, it's a fine movie for those who have seen it," or yeah, I really want to see it for those who haven't seen it yet but do want to see it. But the minute that April gets brought up,
everybody complains.
She looks like Velma from the HBO Max series.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's what upsets me deeply, is that they really just didn't bother to do what was more inclusive, I feel like, because they did two things at once that weren't April at all in her design at all, to be honest. April, we know her as a white woman, and we do know her as a ginger, and while I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of having a black character be the main character, it's also the fact that they changed her from being the regular skinny woman, too. And no, I don't mean that the main character can't be fat either, but it's that they did both at the same time and didn't give any breathing room for anybody to have the adjustment.
Literally, a lot of people on Twitter mentioned that the only thing about April's iconic design that they kept was the color yellow.
Yeah, and that's exactly it.
So, some may argue that Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a black April who's also a teenager, and that one gets props.
One of the things, which was the race swap. They didn't race swap and
age her down or change her entire character, basically.
It made her big.
So, without saying we're fat shaming,
Kind of, but I'm not at the same time, because would I have cared had April O'Neil been a ginger woman who was overweight? Probably not. But it's the fact that they did both at the same time, and it's almost feels like, especially when you see the concept art for the character, it feels not what they were going for. It doesn't feel as inclusive as they were going for.
So I have no problem with race swap. I do and I don't, right?
Right.
April O'Neil, I kind of don't have a problem with race swapping, although the April O'Neil I grew up with was an adult who worked at Channel 6 as a news reporter. That's the one I grew up with. I personally believe, okay, it is from the creators that I feel like for whatever reason, I got this watching interviews with Seth Rogen about this movie, and I just felt like there's a little bit of contemptuous. I can't. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
Contempt?
Contempt, maybe. Like he knows he did this on purpose to get people mad, so he can point the finger and say, "Why you mad?"
Which is fair. That is fair to do.
And think about it.
Controversy does open people up to new ideas and personifications. I'm not saying that it was overall a terrible decision, but I feel like when you look at the concept art for the original character's design and then you see what you got in the movie, it just doesn't come off the way they wanted it to, if that makes sense. Like it could have been better.
Like, all of this I've been saying is been from a very vocal minority, but it also seems like the silent majority is agreeing with the vocal minority because this movie's not doing good in the box office.
And that's just it. See, so here's the crazy part too. I wasn't going to see this movie because April O'Neil was completely different from, what the norm is.
The turtles themselves.
And see, but that I didn't mind because they're still teenagers. They're 13, 14 tops. They got actual teenagers to play the voices. And I was so down with that, right? I think what threw me off is, and for story's sake, I mean, I get it, but I want Shredder. I fucking want Shredder. I'm sorry.
Shredder.
That's another thing that's a problem.
Like, I want Shredder. So, like, none of it threw me off. I remember the first trailer I saw, I was like, oh, shit. And they're playing Tribe Called Quest, my favorite group of all time. And I'm like, oh, shit. They're playing Can I Kick It? And I'm in the theater, rocking the fuck out. Nobody else is. And I'm like, man, culture, people. Oh, I forgot. I'm in the wrong freaking state. But I'm like, this right here looks really good. And literally, that first trailer really did it for me. I was like, damn. But then the more I saw, the more I said, I can wait. I don't need to rush to see this. I don't need to rush to see this. And then, like I said, I'm watching these interviews with Seth Rogen, and I'm like, the dude. You know Seth Rogen and his type of humor. Like, you either love it or you hate it. I personally love it. I really dig Seth Rogen. I'm not a pothead. I enjoyed Pineapple Express. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's
he's the mind behind Rick and Morty, so.
I didn't know that. I don't watch Rick and Morty, so.
And I used to be a really big fan of Rick and Morty, and then a lot of controversies came out about it, and as well as his ending cards that felt very poor pity me. And then I stopped really liking Seth Rogen because it felt kind of manipulative of his audience, because we only really got his perspective on the matter, because his ending cards used to have his wife and his dog and a really happy family scene, and then it ended up becoming him drunk on his couch, looking very depressed. And after you read the allegations of why he was divorced and all this bullshit, it comes off as very gaslighty.
Mm. Yeah, so see, I personally never pay attention to stuff like that because I always say, if it doesn't have a bearing on my life, my walk, my path, then it doesn't matter to me, right?
Right.
Whether or not it affects the entertainment I like, that's not really a deal breaker with me. There are things, for instance, I loved Michael Bay. Then he made Transformers, which I love Transformers. And then I said, Michael Bay, I don't like what you're doing with my Transformers. I was one of those people, right? I was
Right,
one of those.
and
I was one of those who
and-
raped my childhood
and-
people.
And here's another thing. We are still, like, in the grand scheme of things, not that, like, far off from the last Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movies.
No, we're not.
Those were only a couple of years ago.
I think the last one came out like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I
So
think
maybe
the
people...
franchise isn't getting much room to breathe.
Yeah, the franchise probably hasn't really been given much room to breathe since Nick bought it.
Well, I don't. Yes and I. Yeah, I guess so. I personally, again, I just think 40 years of legacy, the ridiculous amount of fans. It's a huge fan base. I was actually shocked that this lost to the Meg. And granted, in its 5-day span, it did. In 5 days, it made money. It definitely is the number 2 movie. But if we look at just the weekend box office, Friday to Sunday, $30 million. And that's another crazy thing. The Meg literally is only $13 million off in 3 days than what Ninja Turtles did in 5. Plus a preview day, so let's say 6. So that just boggles my mind. 5 days and 13. That's amazing. I want to talk real quick because we still got to I got to do this before we get into the review. What the hell is going on with Tommy Cruise? Tommy Cruise was supposed to save the box office. When The Flash fell apart, when Indiana Jones was too old to go on his last adventure.
Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, let's Mission Impossible. It'll save us all." No.
Mission Impossible domestically has pulled in $151 million. It has been in theaters for 4 weeks now. Oppenheimer in 3 weeks has pulled in $228 million domestically, which is crazy. So here's the deal. Last year, Tom Cruise saved the theaters, right? Saved Hollywood with Top Gun Maverick. Saved it.
Yeah.
Everybody went to see it. They went to see it again. They went to see it again. It was like Titanic all over. I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, it's all right, but for real, it's like this, people. So I figured, well, Tommy Cruise has the clout. I call him Tommy Cruise because, true story, War of the Worlds was coming out. I worked in a building, and right behind the building I worked in was the Ziegfeld Theater in New York City, and they used to put all the premieres there, and they were doing a premiere for War of the Worlds, which I love, by the way. I love that movie. I love that franchise. I love the War of the Worlds, everything. So we used to go downstairs in the back and have cigarette breaks, and we went down there for the premiere. We took a very long lunch. Me, my partner in G2, partner in crime. We both went downstairs, smoked some cigarettes, and Tom Cruise walked by. We kept going, Tommy Cruise. So that's why Tom Cruise is always Tommy Cruise. If you ever hear me say it, that's the reason why. But Tommy Cruise, I thought, was going to save the box office again, and he hasn't. And I don't see this movie doing anything good, and it's just, I find that hysterical. Not hysterical, but yeah, no, I find it hysterical. I'm a Tom Hanks guy. But
I mean, I can't speak for the quality of the movie itself because I'm going to be honest. Out of everything that's out right now, the only thing I've seen is the Meg.
oh my god.
But I could speak from an outside perspective looking in. There's been a lot of these motherfucking Mission Impossible movies, like a lot.
This is the 7th one.
Maybe it's people going like, is it overplayed at this point? Should I even bother?
Right. And this is the 7th movie, and it's part 1.
So part 1. So like people are probably going to wait to go see part 2 in theaters if it's only a 2-parter type of thing.
Yeah,
and
it's supposed to be.
only see part 1 on like a streaming service before they go see part 2.
So I want to say real quick, the international market is literally, it's probably stronger than it's ever been. A lot of it has to do with China. Let's not fake facts.
Yeah, no, it's us and China are the two
Big.
top grossers when it comes to movies. We love to watch movies here.
So I'm looking at the breakdown, the worldwide box office right now. I'm looking at the domestic and the international. Mario Brothers domestically, it pulled in $574 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's domestic. That's crazy. That's a great catch. Internationally, $780 million, almost $781 million. Almost
$1 billion internationally alone.
So that's crazy. Barbie domestically, 459.3. That's huge. And again, that's only 3 weeks. Mario's been around since April. Internationally, 573 million. 1 million off of the fucking domestic take of Mario Brothers. That's international. Barbie might make $2 billion. I swear to God. Barbie might be a $2 billion movie. Then you look at, now we go down. Again, these are only $2 billion movies. Guardians Volume 3. 358 million out here. 486 international. Crazy. This one is the dick kicker. Fast X. One of my favorite franchises to talk about, even though I only seen the first two. $145.9 million domestically. Yeah, listen to those words. 145.9 domestic. $573 million international. We're tired of that shit, but outside of the States, people love that shit.
And they're eating it up.
They're eating it up. So I'm going to go down real quick and look for my good friend that opened up. Here we go. Sitting at 32 in its opening week. Not bad, right? $30 million the MEG made domestically this weekend had to contend with Barbie, Ninja Turtles, Oppenheimer, right? $30 million the MEG made opening weekend here domestically. You ready for this? 111.9 million internationally.
Yeah.
Sitting at $141.9 million worldwide right now. That's an amazing opening weekend.
That really is. That's incredible.
It's crazy. So, that being said, I think it's time we get into the MEG review part of the Geek Out. That was your box office take, people. It's crazy. Let's go through it one more time. We're going to do the weekend here. Only domestic. Barbie at number 1 with $53 million. Standing strong. The MEG 2, The Trench, coming in at number 2. 3-day week. Remember, only 3-day weekend we're talking about. We're not doing the 5. 3-day. $30 million. Oppenheimer, $29 million. Just miss being number 2 again. Ninja Turtles coming in at number 4 with $28 million from Friday to Sunday. Haunted Mansion. Whoa, talk about a bomb, Disney. Talk about a bomb, Disney. That's dead. Belongs in the Haunted Mansion as a ghost. Only made $9 million. In 2 weeks, it has made domestically $42 million. That movie's going nowhere.
Wow.
You know, they didn't even mention that it was a remake in any place.
Like, none of the marketing gives props to the original Eddie Murphy version. I think that's to that movie's detriment.
I didn't know Eddie Murphy did a Haunted Mansion. Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, now I do.
Mention it because nobody knows.
I do. Now I do remember. Every time I think of old Eddie Murphy movies, I'm thinking of something like Nutty Professor and Dr. Dolittle.
Why are we just like banishing Eddie Murphy to the shadow realm?
We should not. We should not
have him here.
Look,
Fuck him.
Listen. Netflix owns Eddie Murphy. All you got to do is watch My Name Is Dolomite. That movie, I said, that's Eddie Murphy. That is the king from the 80s, Eddie Murphy, right there. It was perfect. I love that movie.
I will check that out. I haven't heard of it yet.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. Fun as fuck. But let's do it. We did a half hour on the numbers. Let's get into the MEG 2 review because honestly, this is why I've got.
I have my book with me. I'm a book reader, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we go. So the MEG 2 comes out this weekend, right? It does what it does. Again, shit that I didn't see happening, but it does what it does. Kicking ass, taking names. Like I said, this movie has fucking ridiculous amount of money overseas. Why is that? Why? Why do you think?
You cannot underestimate the marketing genius that is. It's a big fucking shark.
Listen, you know what this movie was to me? I'm gonna say it right at the beginning of this review before we get into it. And look, this movie is really, there's nothing spoilery in this movie. Nothing fucking happens. It's 3 giant sharks, period. That's it. You see it in the trailers. There's no spoilers. So be mindful.
There is a bit of one.
Okay.
The giant octopus that showed up out of nowhere.
Giant octopus that had more screen time than I ever had. I'm just saying. And I've been in 2 movies, just so y'all know.
That's fair.
But
I've only been in one, and I went to an acting school.
Yo, let's cruise. We in the same boat. But no, seriously. We're not spoiling nothing. We're gonna talk about this movie. There's nothing to be spoiled. It's a giant shark movie. I'm gonna say it flat out. I found this movie to be a bigger budget version of any type of asylum flick that had Mega Shark.
I mean, that's what everybody said the first movie was, so...
But the first movie was good. And it wasn't even my type of movie. Like, it wasn't the flavor I wanted. I mean, I shouldn't say wanted. It wasn't my flavor, but I still enjoyed the Kool-Aid, if that makes sense.
I can feel you on that. I mean, the movie did drag when they were down in the trench.
Especially during with the scene where they were just like walking across the seafloor. I didn't really feel that was necessary. Like, it did add tension, but not a lot.
Now, I will say to everybody listening, if you want a better plot out of the Meg 2, The Trench, read the book. It's just called The Trench. It's not called Meg 2, it's just called The Trench by Steve Alton. Amazing book. I will say one thing as a book reader that I really love is one of the sharks. The shark that was born in a captivity. Heike, I think is her name is.
Heike, yeah.
That was her name in the movie.
Did he call her Heike or Haichi? I couldn't...
Aichi or something like
It
that.
was something in Mandarin, which didn't make sense because in the book they were Japanese.
Yeah, in the books, all the characters are not Chinese, they're Japanese. But back to Haichi. In the book, I do believe that Haichi is based off of the character of Angel in the book, who is also the first Megalodon born in captivity and all sorts of things. One thing I love is they actually made her albino. They didn't make her bioluminescent, but they did make her all white. If you looked in the movie,
Yeah.
They never really made a comment about it.
they did not. They did not point it out for some reason.
I could tell you the
I think
reasons.
that would have been
But
important.
it is an important detail in the novels. In the novels, the Megs do not look the way they do in the movie. The Megs are pure stark white, and they glow because they're bioluminescent because they live down at the bottom of a damn trench.
And the movies make them more like giant-sized Jaws.
Yes,
Pretty much.
They make them look like giant great white sharks with more rounded snouts than pointy snouts.
Yep.
And that's okay, I guess. The reason they gave in the first movie is if they made them how they do in the books, they would look too fake.
Yeah. Can we talk about the like low key kind of bromance relationship between the Mandarin scientist dude and the diver, the rescue diver?
And Noah?
I mean Jonas.
Yes, I can't
Jonas, yeah.
remember
Why did I
his
say
name.
Noah? Yeah, Jonas. You know what's funny about Jonas? Listen, they really went out of their way to make Jonas be Christmas from the Expendables and do all sorts of kung fu kickassery. And I was sitting there, and I can't lie, that was entertaining. I sat there like, wait, what? This dude was like a pacifist in the first movie.
Half of this movie is a shark movie that, what you paid for to come and save.
No.
And the other half is a Jason Statham transporter-ass action movie.
I disagree with you there. It's not half of the movie that's a shark movie. it's maybe a quarter of the movie that's a shark movie.
Yes.
That the sharks don't do dick until the very end of that movie.
That
They
is
don't
very
do
true.
nothing. And that's why I was like, there's 3 sharks. I mean, like, why are we
What's
waiting?
going on?
Yeah, it was terrible. Like, it really was terrible. They were relegated to mating up near the whatever that thing was.
When Haichi first went down in the trench, we learned that she went down there just to fuck.
She went down there to mate because she was acting more aggressive and she was needing to do that. Her eyes did the whole rolling into the back of her head as she dug through the grate and got through.
Yep.
So we already knew that she was becoming that aggressive from the first movie. But when she got there and actually like mated, nothing happened.
And that's the whole thing. So, like, it literally, I would say a quarter, that's where I disagree with you, of this movie is about sharks. The rest of the movie, I swear to God, especially when they get into the underwater facility, I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, when did this become a Die Hard sequel? It felt like...
Where did Jason Momoa come from?
Yeah, I was like...
That's definitely not who that played that guy.
No, that's funny, you're right. Santos, whatever his name was in the movie.
In the novel, right, there is also a underwater facility in the trench. And it's like ran by this dude who, I swear to God, if you read his description, his physical description in the novel, the only thing that's going to pop up in your head is Jeff Bezos.
Aha, I could see that. Maybe that's why they gender swapped him in this movie.
Yeah, some or other. And he's this piece of shit who takes Jonas's wife, who, like, that. Can we talk about the fact that the love interest from the last movie was like completely and utterly, like, no fanfare at all, killed off in between movies?
That's why Pacific Rim Uprising is better, because, at least we get to see her meet her demise. That's all I'm saying.
But that's what I mean by, like, their bromance relationship. Like, they straight went from the female relationship protagonist to, no, just kill her off, put him with the scientist, with the daughter, with his technically niece, and make them have her as a child.
But then, because of that, they couldn't have what they had in the novel, where the wife is trapped down at the trench. It's not Jonas that's trapped down at the trench. It's the wife, and his wife, character. I forget her name is right now from the books. It's Japanese name.
Hold on, wait a minute. Are we spoiling the books here? I'm like, we can spoil the movie, but holy crap!
I'm slightly spoiling the books just to compare it to the movie, right?
Gotcha.
There's this constant tension between her and the CEO, and whether or not the CEO is going to sexually assault her.
So wait, is she she's still Jonas's wife in the book, right?
Yes.
Like they're not separated. She just got kidnapped.
Yeah. Okay.
I can dig it.
Like the white woman, the ex-wife, she in the movie was actually redeemed, and in the book she was killed because she was an irredeemable bitch. But he marries the Asian lead.
Okay.
Who is Japanese and not Chinese in the book, and he's the one that's trapped down in the trench in the book.
Okay. That's crazy.
And not only is she trapped with this psychotic billionaire man who can get away with anything he wants because he has enough money to do so, but she's also trapped with a species that should have been in this movie. And here's where I'm going to go off, all right? Chronosaurus was such a important aspect of the second book that's not in this movie, and I'm fucking mad. The Chronosaurus is a larger relative of the Mosasaurus.
Oh.
And they were supposed to like compete with the MEGs as like the top predator of the trench ecosystem. And you take those out, what competitions do the MEGs even have?
And you like this movie because what you're describing is so much better.
I like this movie for being a sequel to a movie that was nothing like the books it's based on.
Okay, so it's split. It's a timeline split.
It's a
Multiverse.
timeline split.
Got you. In that regards, I respect that because I do want to read the novels. I do. I can't lie. Especially after seeing this movie. I was like, nah, it wasn't doing it for me. And I'm pretty sure when I read the novel, especially now, there's so much juicier things. And I'm going to sit there and complain and be mad that I read the novel because it's 1,000 times better. And why didn't we get this? Some might say maybe they're waiting for the next movie. But if they already unceremoniously dumped off, what's her name? Mei Bing. I think that was the actress's name.
Yeah, Mei Bing Bing's error from the first movie. They just killed her off.
They just killed her off, and it's just like, so I want to talk about this real quick because these are things that I get mad at. I don't recall them mentioning that Jonas and her were married, but at the same time, he's like, "You're my child," to the daughter. I got to be honest, I could not stand the little kid in this movie. Well, let me rephrase that: the 14-year-old teenager in this movie.
She was much better as the little.
I also agree that I didn't really enjoy her character in the movie, but that also comes with the idea of her being a teenager. You know, she's 14, she's pushing her boundaries. It kind of makes you want to punch her in the face, but you know she's a child, so you're not going to.
I know. I work at a school. Trust me, high school at that. I know.
So it's not like you're like, oh my God, I hate this child. You're like, oh my God, why can't you just act better if you're so smart?
But that's my point. You would think because she is so smart, right?
Yeah.
That she would follow the fucking laws of filmmaking. Do I gotta get screamed to up in this bitch? Just follow the fucking rules. And this is where I get mad at this movie because here is, and this might be a hot take, but here's where you can see the divide from what Hollywood looks at in terms of filmmaking today and what the rest of the world is catching up to.
Mm-hmm.
You said I try to be diplomatic by saying that. But make no mistake, the MEG, these movies are co-funded by
China.
By China, right? I'm trying to see if they even have it here.
Which is why they replaced the Japanese characters with
This
Mandarin.
is why, like,
Right.
a good solid minute of runtime for this movie is nothing but logos.
There it is, yeah. BCDF pitches. You know, it's Warner Brothers, D. Bonaventura. I can never say his name. Pitches, but he's been around forever. But like, you can totally feel that Asian cinema presence. And don't get me wrong, I fucking love Asian cinema. I love cinema from China. I love cinema from Japan. I love cinema from Korea now. The only cinema I don't love is the whatever the lake movie came from, Taiwan, Thailand. That's the only one. That's the only one I was like, nah, I can't rock with y'all here. This one is good concept.
Maybe in a couple of years. Hold on.
Maybe. But like you can see this movie definitely felt more like an Asian production than the first one.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Like half of this movie you have to read subtitles.
Which is fine because I definitely love that kind of like inclusion in media where the characters actually speak the language that they're written to. But it's like,
yeah.
So I'm not mad at that because I do it.
We had little kids come to see this movie in our theater.
Okay.
Literal children, like younger than 5.
And they were, I'm pretty sure I overheard them complaining that they had to read so much.
Not to mention, there was also the one in the stroller that was screaming when the dinosaur ate the other dinosaur.
Yeah, that would be an issue for me. Like, I can't stand
that was like, wow, you know this is a horror movie, right? There's going to be blood and gore and the food chain.
The second time I went to see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a mother sat behind us with a fucking baby. This baby, it was still breastfeeding. And I'm looking at my boy. I'm like, bro, like legit, is this baby going to start? Like, am I going to like say something to this lady? I've seen the movie already, but But the
Do
baby
I
was
need to say something about theater etiquette?
yeah, but the baby was freaking calm and perfect. Maybe she had her tit in its mouth the entire time. I have no idea. But the baby was well behaved.
Perfect, you know, as long as it's occupied.
Exactly. But
It's dark in there. Nobody's gonna care.
exactly. Shit, I could have been on the Let me stop. Sorry. But no, yeah, like you totally feel the Asian cinema presence in this movie, from the unbelievable action. All of a sudden, Jonas can kick ass and take names. And again, Jason Statham is that dude.
DJ the coward in the last movie has like
It's fucking military survival backpack.
Okay. So I saw a trailer with that in it, and that's what made. Because I got to be honest with you, I wasn't gonna go see this movie. I really wasn't. I as much as I was clamoring for it, I'm like, I want to see the Dracula on a cruise ship movie next week more than I want to see this, right? But I saw that, like, not even a trailer, it was a clip. And I sat there and I said, yo, wait a minute. Because it had me laughing so hard. But I believed it. And that's when I was like, oh, they're not taking this serious. This is something special. I love when movies do that. And a franchise like this, it works. But then for me, it just did not work when I seen it. I'm like, what? But I still enjoyed that part. Like, no, I learned how to swim. I took training classes. I got my backpack, my survival kit. I thought that was genius, because then I thought about it and I said, you know what? We should all have one of those, just in case. In case. But no,
My favorite joke in the movie was just, I didn't say what kind of emergencies, as she pulls out the fucking row of condoms.
it was so good. All right, my quick question to that girl who survived, because everybody else, with the exception of the little girl, obviously, was she supposed to be a part of the first crew in the first movie? Because I didn't recognize her, but the way she was acting, it was like, no, I know the type of person you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure because we did just watch the first movie, like not even a month before we saw this one.
Same.
And she was not part of that first crew.
I don't remember her.
I don't either. So that I was like, is she trying to play like Ruby Rose's part? Is that who she's supposed to be?
Oh my god, she's the Jessica and Ashley.
Oh wow.
So just for context purposes, Jessica and Ashley are a couple of jokes in the Pitch Perfect series. They're a movie about college girls singing a cappella.
Yep.
And they're two characters that don't really get mentioned or addressed. They're just there to fill out the rest of the cast. And their joke is they can't tell the difference between them. They don't know who's Jessica or who's Ashley. And Jessica and Ashley don't even know.
That's like me and you in the same movie. They're not gonna know.
Exactly. Who the fuck are you? Yeah. I don't remember.
Another thing I was kind of like, not as someone who didn't read the book, and from what it seems like this book, The Trench, is vastly different from what we got in the movie.
Very different.
I called it. As soon as they said the sub was sabotaged, I was like, oh, it's the girl.
Right.
It was so, and you know what pissed me off? It's because maybe I watched that trailer a couple times, and I'm like, wait, she's the one that gets eaten. What the fuck?
Yeah, she gets unceremoniously eaten like not even half an hour after she was introduced as the villain.
Literally, she was just there, kind of cocky, a little like jarring almost with her like cockiness, and then kissing the villain that was introduced underwater as her husband.
That's another thing that I wanted to punch in the face. Again, this is not something that they do in America anymore. That's why I compared it to a Die Hard sequel. And I'm not talking about Die Hard 1, 2, or 3. I'm talking about Die Hard 4 and 5. I'm talking about the bad ones, right? Because he was like, you don't remember me, Jonas? He's like, I run into a lot of assholes. What the fuck? What? He's like, yo, I spent 3 years in prison because of you. And I'm sitting here scratching my head. I'm like, yeah, this is definitely this is Asian influence.
Yeah, like literally, Jonas is nothing like this in the novels. He is a paleontologist. in the novels.
He's Dr. Alan Grant. It drove me crazy, but at the same time, I did like that bad guy. I can't lie. There was something about he was entertaining. He played a good role. He played a good role. He played a good part.
Also, can I point out just a scientific irk I have with this movie? If those little lizard things were going to stay down in the trench for 65 million years, they would not have legs anymore.
Absolutely, they wouldn't be able to.
They would have evolved past that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have that, but you needed the Jurassic Park. It was like a bad version of Final Wars. There's so many different movies in this one film. You got Jurassic Park. You got Die Hard. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what? You got Asian action cinema.
Like literally, those things were just four-legged raptors.
Yes, they were, and it was cool. But I mean, literally, there is a scene in that movie that was straight out of Jurassic Park: The Lost World when the raptors are going through the grass. Yeah, and I'm like. I was like, are y'all out of your fucking mind?
Was I also the only one that thought that the female CEO was a very jarring, twist villain?
Like she was a nothing character. She is nothing like the CEO character from the actual novel.
Because she was like, oh yeah, we're gonna care about the ecosystem and we're gonna do all this to fix it and we care about the oceans and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden it's like we don't care about the oceans.
Yeah, she was like, we just want
get out of money.
We want billions of dollars. And by the way, Mr.
Dollars from where?
She was
mining in the ocean that you could have done legally.
Well, remember, it's different because they had to go into that trench. What's that cloud called that the Megs can't get around?
The thermocline.
The thermocline. Yeah. So, she had to use, was his name Mei Ling?
Mei Ying.
Mei Ying. Mei Ling's the girl, right? The child. So she had to use Mei Ying. He created, excuse me, speaking of another movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, he created the hovercrafts. The whatever they called them in Godzilla.
The heaves. To go into Hollow Earth.
To go under the cloud. And I'm saying, I mean, again, the movie starts off and I'm like, at first I'm like, you've seen the messages. I'm like, yo, Jason Statham's kicking ass? All right, I'm down. Next scene.
Yeah, we watched Kong Skull Island literally the day before we went to go see this movie, and I was like, why is Skull Island's hovercrafts here?
It's crazy. And then the next scene is like, wait a minute, does this dude have Spartan armor? Oh, I gotta make love to this movie. I love it. Then the movie continued, and I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to retract a couple of statements here because this is, and it's, for me personally, it was entertaining, but entertaining I can clip my toenails while watching this movie type shit. You know what I'm saying?
I think the main problem is that every single shark scene was in that first trailer.
That was my biggest issue. And then
somebody who didn't see the trailer, I guess that didn't really spoil it for me.
And that's a good thing too, because apparently, Brother JR said he didn't see the trailer, which I don't believe, JR. I just don't believe. But I digress. He's not here to defend himself. But yeah, I was the same way. I was like, wait a minute. So the entire trailer was pretty much the entirety of the sharks in this movie.
Yeah.
Because all of the cool sequences with the sharks, I saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
That bothers me. That bothers me to no end.
It's so bizarre that we got the foreshadowing for the octopus, and then at the very end of the movie, he became relevant.
But the octopus was taken out so easily; it wasn't even a fight.
No.
And you would think, you would think it should be a fight because this octopus, this giant kaiju-sized octopus,
it's the Kraken, baby. It's the Kraken.
Is supposed to be probably the replacement for the Kronosauruses in the novel.
Which would usually be scrapping with something like a sperm whale.
Yeah, and a megalodon is just as big, so it makes sense for this.
But the Haichi just took it out like that.
Yeah, Haichi did. That's right. But that's one of the... That was another thing that I love too, because I was like, look at this. And I can't lie, I was enjoying it. But Again, not Mei Ling. God,
Mei.
Mei Ying. Apparently, he's a big action star in China.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that, right? So when he's getting his action due, and I will say this though, I will not knock the cast at all.
Mei Ying is the 14-year-old girl.
So
Mei Ling is the male, the scientist.
Okay, he's the uncle. That's what I'm talking about.
The uncle.
So the uncle, let's just call him Uncle so we don't get them confused. But Uncle is a action star in China, big action star.
Yeah.
And again, I will not take this away from anybody in the cast. Maybe the girl, the 14-year-old girl, maybe niece, but everybody played a part perfectly. And the comedic timing for everybody, for me, it hit. It was hit.
Oh yeah, the comedy was great.
The comedy was great.
Perfect.
And again, and this is what. So I can't say I sit here and hate this movie. I don't hate this movie because the comedy is inoffensive and it's funny, and it hits.
I believe that the Meg 2, all the money it's made so far is pretty much deserved. I as a book reader, I can point out the inconsistencies all day. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that this series is finally in getting movies, and I'm down for almost whatever as long as it's entertaining.
I'll add this in. It's better than the Twilight movies.
I can't speak on that because I've never watched them, but I would say pretty much anything is.
You want a good laugh? Give Pop 'em in with your daughter. I think she'll have a great time.
Funny.
But make sure to point out that this is a very toxic relationship and do not obsess over your fucking vampire boyfriend.
I think my wife and daughter did that last year, actually. True story.
Perfect.
But I get to stay downstairs and watch Godzilla movies. But no, like, seriously, all joking aside, I dug the jokes. I thought they landed. I thought all the actors hit it on the nozzle. I did not like the young girl. I was very upset, especially at the end when she agrees with, yeah, this is way... Like, I just survived almost being crushed in a submarine, walking across the freaking trench to get to the...
Eaten by a megalodon.
Like, there was being drowned.
She survived all of this, and she goes, yeah, you know what, Daddy Jonas... You're absolutely right. I'm going to hang out in that lifeguard tower. I'm going to go under the desk. I'm going to stay there. And then what does she do? She sees
she leaves.
She sees an old lady floating 10 feet from the fucking...
That sometimes you need to step in when things go wrong. And that was the thing that Jonas had said in the previous movie.
Yeah.
About rescuing people.
And that's fine and all, but it's just like, it becomes such a trope, and you don't really see that in Hollywood anymore. And that's where I'm like, damn, there's so much Asian influence in here because, yeah, let's get this teenage girl to be heroic, and then she's getting thrown around by the fucking squid or giant octopus. Then Uncle gotta come save her when she catches the fucking bomb. Oh, that was funny as hell. I loved it. She did catch the bomb, right?
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It was funny. So, I mean, like, I get mad at things like that. This is one of the reasons why, again, and I compare it to Die Hard because of certain aspects. But this is why movies like Die Hard and shit like that work. It's just like, there's no kid crutch in the movie. You got to focus on what's at hand. That was one of the things I loved Jonas saying. Like, each problem at a time. Don't think about the next one until we get through this one. I love that.
Right.
That was fucking dope. But
Also, the movie actually taught me something.
yeah.
If you don't have any air in your lungs, you can swim at the bottom of a trench 13 miles down?
Yeah, I don't know how accurate that is, and I would not try that.
And it has some general science behind it because when you think about how submarines work, they operate in the sense of air pressure, and with that, if you have air pressure, a certain amount of air pressure in a submarine, it is more likely to collapse. So with enough, oh my gosh, my brain stopped working. With enough of a shield around it, basically enough of a, what is the word I'm looking for? it's not an air pocket. It's if you have enough reinforcement, that's the word I'm looking for, behind the area that you're in, it'll be able to sustain its shape. And that's how pressure kind of works. But if there isn't any air to push out, then there's no reason for the pressure to apply, basically, because it's not trying to force anything out. But there is air in our bloodstream because we carry oxygen through our bloodstream. So
that's why his nose bleeded a little bit when he was first introduced to the pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Listen, that's science way beyond my pay grade. Honest to God, I know how to light a match. Okay,
that's fair.
That's fair.
That's science to me. Fire, unga bunga. But all right, listen. There's not much more to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I would say the Meg Tooth Trench is like 6.57 out of 10 kind of status kind of movie. Definitely in terms of sheer entertainment value and, you know, what you see out of the sharks, it's a step down from the first movie, but it's still an entertaining movie, for sure.
It is entertaining. I will say that. I did like the Jaws 2 references towards the end, though. I can't lie. He's banging on the thing just like Jaws 2. I swear to God, I thought, this was me. Could have been. Maybe because I was hoping for it. But I heard like a little bit of the Jaws 2 theme. A little bit was in there.
A lot of this stuff was homaging Jaws 2, just like the first movie was homaging Jaws 1.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he even says it when he pulls his DJ says it.
Yeah, it's
poison
like
tips. I think that's why I was like, I got to see this now. But Cruz, what did you think? Like your overall take on this movie?
My movie were just, I was entertained. I thought that the overall bonds that the uncle had with the father just really rounded out that family dynamic just beautifully, and that she had more of a community behind her. Which, well, she's just really learning. We'll determine that maybe in a later movie. But for now, we know that she's in good hands. She'll turn out to be a better character eventually, and hopefully the sharks won't come back.
The bromance thing between Jonas and Unc, I am so upset because I look at my man Max and he looks dejected off to the side like, but I thought we were the bromance.
I mean, they already set up the sequel with the fact that they just let Haichi swim away.
They really did.
Haichi's still out there.
Well, because Haichi listened to the clicks.
Yeah.
So in their head,
really going to be able to contain her with just that.
And that's, but it is crazy because when the Megs, got to eat, well, then the Megs is going to eat, right?
Exactly.
Especially a pregnant Meg, because make no mistake about it, Haichi's pregnant.
She fucking pregnant.
She pregnant. But,
and a giant hole they blasted in the thermal layer.
Well, that closed.
Did that close? I thought that was permanently open.
No, it closed after like an hour, and the squid and all of those four-legged raptors.
See, like, they didn't explain that very well.
Because you know what? When you have a movie with influences from another country where it's like, that doesn't need to be explained, the money says, well, that doesn't need to be explained. And there we have the Meg 2.
There you go.
And that's
so overall it was an entertaining movie.
It's a very Chinese movie.
It is. No, and it is.
Which I don't mind. I mean, like, I don't mind having different kinds of people being the main character. I very much enjoy that because it educates me on different kinds of cultures and different kinds of people. I think that's beautiful.
Just like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I'm April O'Neil. That'll do it for this episode of the Geek Out, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to thank my guests for being here. So Gams, Cruz, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And thank you everybody out there at G-Show Land listening to this crazy ass rant and rave. I loved it. I had a good time. This is the Geek Out. I am G1, and we are out of here. Peace.